The train station rush was normal until a teenage girl did something no one expected. She walked through the crowded terminal holding a woman's hand, but something was wrong, desperately wrong. She never smiled, never relaxed, never made eye contact with anyone. Then, without warning, she slipped her hand behind her back. A silent signal. No one understood except one. The only one who noticed was a police dog named Rico. Instantly, Rico locked on. His ears pinned forward, his entire body went rigid. A low, alert whine cut through the noise of the terminal, causing his handler to freeze mid-step. Suddenly, the dog pulled toward the girl, determined in every movement. Officer Nico grabbed the lead, confused. Trained police dogs never fixated this intensely on what appeared to be a normal teenager. But the terror hidden behind Cora's calm mask said everything her voice couldn't say out loud. Why would a teen signal a trained police dog in a busy train station? Within minutes, Rico would uncover a truth so horrifying it would expose an entire criminal network. Stay with us, because this story will leave you breathless. Before we go into details, click subscribe, like, and comment where you're watching from. I would be glad to know this story goes as far as Canada, all of the United States of America, Australia, Africa, and even the United Kingdom. So let me know where you're listening from. Let's begin. The Central Station was alive hours before the evening rush. Rolling suitcases echoed across the marble floors. Overhead announcements bounced off vaulted ceilings, and exhausted commuters shuffled from one platform to the next. It was the kind of chaotic afternoon where no one noticed anything except their own destination. But Officer Nico Johnston had trained himself to see what others overlooked. Standing beside him was Rico, one of the most trusted canine officers in the entire Transit Police Department. The Belgian Malinois sat poised, ears alert, scanning the moving sea of people with razor-sharp intelligence. Nico took a slow breath, feeling the familiar tension of peak-hour security duty. Weekday afternoons always brought heavier crowds, tighter schedules, and higher risks. Students rushed in groups, business travelers argued on phones, and solo travelers clutched coffee cups like anchors. Most officers felt overwhelmed by the chaos. Nico didn't. He trusted Rico more than he trusted any camera system in the station. Rico shifted slightly, nose twitching at the shifting currents in the air. Perfume, coffee, leather bags, stress, and the unmistakable chemical traces of human fear. Nico glanced down at him. "Easy, boy," he murmured, touching Rico's vest lightly. The dog's tail thumped once, disciplined but warm. Across the terminal, teenagers laughed while waiting for their train, backpacks slung over their shoulders. Nearby, a mother struggled with a stroller. Normal scenes, nothing unusual, but experience had taught Nico that danger rarely announced itself loudly. Sometimes it walked through a train station holding a woman's hand, looking perfectly ordinary. The main entrance doors slid open again as another wave of passengers poured inside. Nico's eyes automatically swept the crowd left to right, right to left, searching for anything out of rhythm. Rico mirrored his gaze, head moving in sync like he could read Nico's thoughts. Then the first subtle shift happened. Rico's ears shot higher, his body stiffened. Not an alarm, but attention. He wasn't signaling danger yet, but he was sensing something human. Something is wrong. Nico frowned slightly. "What is it?" he whispered, but Rico didn't look at him. Instead, the dog stared straight ahead, toward the woman in a dark coat walking with a teenage girl in gray. Nothing seemed wrong first glance, and yet Rico didn't blink. Something about that pair, that moment, that tiny detail in the crowd had already captured him.
Officer Nico Johnston stood at the edge of Platform 7, watching the 4 p.m. commuter rush transform Central Station into controlled chaos. Hundreds of bodies flowed past him like a river, briefcases swinging, phones pressed to ears, the rhythm of a city in motion. To most people, it looked like random noise. To Nico, every movement told a story. Beside him, Rico sat perfectly still, a Belgian Malinois with the kind of focus that made people nervous. His amber eyes tracked the crowd with systematic precision, ears rotating like radar dishes, nose lifted to catch every shift in the air. Most canines were trained for one thing: drugs, explosives, search and rescue. Rico was different. He could smell fear. Not just the obvious kind, the hidden kind, the kind people swallowed down and buried behind calm faces. Nico had learned to trust that gift 3 years ago in Kandahar. He'd been deployed with Rico, walking through what looked like a normal marketplace, vendors selling fruit, children playing. Everything looked safe, but Rico had frozen mid-step, body rigid, nose aimed at a melon. Nico almost ignored it, almost waved it off because nothing looked wrong, but he'd learned one rule: when Rico says danger, you listen. They cleared the area. Bomb squad found the IED. If it had detonated, 23 people would have died. Nico would have been one of them. After that, questioning Rico wasn't an option. It became faith. When Nico came home, the nightmares came with him. Crowds felt like minefields. Every bag looked suspicious, until transit police offered him a position with Rico, a second chance, a purpose. Now the weight of that responsibility settled on his shoulders every shift. Somewhere in this sea of travelers, someone might need help and not know how to ask for it. That's what Rico was trained to find. Rico shifted his weight. The dog's nostrils flared wider, pulling in deeper samples of the air. His tail lifted slightly. Not alarm, not yet, but attention. Nico scanned the platform. Business travelers checking watches, college students laughing, a mother wrestling a toddler into a stroller. Everything looked normal, but Rico's ears swiveled left, locking onto something Nico couldn't see yet. The dog's breathing changed, faster, more focused, his muscles coiled with restrained energy. "What is it, boy?" Nico murmured, his hand resting lightly on Rico's vest. Rico didn't bark, didn't growl. He simply stared through the crowd with laser precision, body language screaming what his silence confirmed. Someone out there wasn't okay. Someone out there was terrified and trying desperately not to show it. Nico's pulse quickened. His training kicked in. His hand moved instinctively toward his radio, because in 3 years of working together, Rico had never been wrong. When he sensed fear like this, buried deep and hidden carefully, it meant someone was in trouble, real trouble. And somewhere in the chaos of Platform 7, that someone was running out of time.
6 months ago, Cora White believed she was finally being seen. Not as the quiet girl who ate lunch alone scrolling photography feeds. Someone had noticed her work. Someone thought she had talent. Scout Marcus found her on Instagram, where she posted moody black and white shots of the city. Her first comment was simple: "You have a real eye for composition." Then came the DM. He worked for a boutique agency. They represented emerging artists. She had potential. Cora checked his profile. Professional, legitimate looking. The messages came daily. He critiqued her work gently, praised her perspective, asked about her dreams. He made her feel like she mattered. "You could do this professionally," he wrote. "I can help you get there." When he mentioned a studio session with a photographer who could mentor her, Cora's heart raced. This was her chance. Her mother worked 2 jobs. Her little brother Marcus needed so much. This could change everything. The woman who met her at the coffee shop looked exactly like her profile picture. Designer bag, warm smile. "You must be Cora. I'm Melissa." She showed Cora a portfolio, explained the opportunity. "The studio's upstate. We'll take the train."
You'll be back tomorrow." Should she call her mom first? Of course, Melissa said smoothly, but the photographer is only available tonight. These opportunities don't come twice. Cora texted her mom she'd be late, figured she'd explain when she got back with photos to show. The moment they walked away from the coffee shop, Melissa's smile cooled. "Give me your phone, studio policy." Cora handed it over, uneasy. Then Melissa's voice dropped to ice. "If you try anything, if you make a scene, your little brother pays. I know where he goes to school. Do you understand?" The world had tilted. Cora understood then with sickening clarity that Scout Marcus didn't exist, that this woman wasn't taking her to any studio, that she'd walked straight into a trap built from her own desperate hope. That was 2 days ago. Now, Cora moved through Central Station like a ghost, gray hoodie pulled low, eyes down, every step carefully measured to look normal, casual, like she belonged beside this woman. Inside, her mind screamed. Her hands shook. She pressed them into fists to hide the trembling. How could she have been so stupid, so naive? Her mother had warned her about strangers online. Everyone knew about predators, but Marcus seemed different, professional, real. God, what would happen to her? What would they do when the train crossed state lines and there was no one left to help? Ahead, through the crowd, Cora spotted a police officer with a dog. Her heart lurched. The school assembly last year flashed through her mind. The canine demonstration, the officer explaining how trained dogs could sense distress, how victims could signal for help. It was insane, desperate, but it was all she had left. Cora took a breath and made her choice.
Melissa's grip on Cora's elbow was gentle enough to look caring, firm enough to feel like a leash. They moved through the main terminal at a steady pace. Commuters flowed around them. No one looked twice. "Track 12, Melissa murmured, checking her phone. "Train boards in 9 minutes." Cora's legs felt mechanical. Her mind raced through impossible scenarios. Scream? Melissa would disappear and Marcus would pay. Run? She wouldn't make it 10 steps. In 9 minutes, she'd be on a train heading somewhere she might never come back from. Then she saw them. A police officer near Platform 7. Beside him, a dog, a canine unit. The school assembly flashed through her mind. Last year, the auditorium was packed with students, half listening to a safety presentation. Then the officer had brought out a dog, and everyone sat up. "This is Sergeant," the officer said. "He's trained to detect explosives, narcotics, and something most people don't know about, human distress." Police dogs could read body language humans missed, could smell the chemical changes fear produced, could sense when someone was in trouble even when they couldn't speak. If you're ever in danger and you can't call for help, there are silent signals canines are trained to recognize. Hand behind your back, fingers forming specific patterns. The memory crystallized into hope. This was insane. This officer might not be trained the same way. The signal might not work. Melissa might see. But if Cora did nothing, she was gone anyway. They were 30 feet from the officer now. The dog sat alert, scanning the crowd. 20 feet. Cora's heart felt like it might explode. Her hands trembled. She pretended to adjust the strap of her bag, shifting it higher on her shoulder. In that movement, as natural as she could make it, she slipped her right hand behind her back, pressed her palm flat against her lower spine, splayed her fingers wide, then brought her thumb and pinky together, forming the pattern she'd memorized from that assembly. "Please see me, please." The dog's head snapped toward her as fast as it was almost violent. His ears shot forward like radar locks. His entire body went rigid, muscles coiling beneath his vest. His amber eyes fixed on Cora with an intensity that made her breath stop. He saw her.
He knew. Melissa kept walking, oblivious, checking departure times on her phone. "Track 12, right on time," she murmured. But the dog didn't look away, and now his handler had noticed, following his partner's laser focus straight to the girl in the gray hoodie whose hand was still frozen behind her back. Cora met the officer's eyes for just a second, a silent scream, a prayer. "Help me, please help me."
Rico's world was built on scents humans couldn't imagine. Every person left a trail: coffee and cologne, sweat and soap, leather briefcases. But beneath those surface smells lay something deeper: emotional signatures, chemical truths the body couldn't hide. The crowd moved in layers of ordinary stress, frustration, exhaustion, irritation, normal, expected. Then something cut through it all like a blade. Rico's head snapped left, his entire body locked. Fear. Not someone running late, not mild anxiety. This was terror, raw and visceral. Cortisol spiking, adrenaline pumping, the chemical cocktail of prey trying not to run. A teenage girl in gray walking beside a woman in dark clothing. The girl's gait was measured, controlled, but her body betrayed her. Shoulders rigid, jaw clenched, breathing shallow, rapid. Rico cataloged every detail: trembling hands, darting eyes, dilated pupils despite bright lights, classic signs of extreme stress. Then came the hand signal. The girl adjusted her bag. Her right hand slipped behind her back, fingers splayed, thumb and pinky together. The exact pattern Rico had been trained to recognize. A low whine built in Rico's throat. Alert, urgency. The woman beside the girl registered differently. She walked with casual confidence, but there was something calculated in her calm. Predatory. Her hand on the girl's elbow looked gentle, but Rico could see the grip, firm, controlling. The scents didn't match. The girl reeked of terror. The woman smelled of control, detachment, no familial bond, no protective instinct, just calculation. Rico's whine intensified. His body refused to move, locked on to the threat like radar on a target. Every fiber of his being screamed danger. Not explosives, not drugs, something worse: human predation. Above him, Nico's hand tightened on his vest. "What is it, boy?" Rico didn't break focus, couldn't. The girl was 15 feet away now, still walking, still pretending, but her eyes flicked to him, just once, a look that said everything. "Please see me. Help." Rico's ears pinned forward, his nose lifted higher, pulling in every molecule of information. The fear signature was overwhelming now, so strong it drowned out everything else in the terminal. "Easy," Nico murmured, but there was a shift in his partner's voice. Recognition, trust. 3 years together had taught Nico to read Rico's alerts like language. This wasn't a false alarm. This wasn't nervousness or anxiety. This was real danger wearing a normal face. The girl and woman passed within 10 feet. Rico's body turned to track them, every muscle taut as wire. His whine became sharper, more insistent. He shifted his weight forward, muscles coiling to move. "I see her," Nico said quietly. His hand moved from Rico's vest to his radio. "I see her, buddy. We've got her." Rico held position, but his message was clear. Don't let them board that train. Don't let her disappear. That girl is terrified, and that woman is the reason why. In 3 years, Nico had never ignored one of Rico's alerts. He wasn't about to start now.
Nico stepped forward, positioning himself in their path. "Excuse me, is everything all right?" The woman turned with a smile so warm it would have fooled almost anyone. "Oh, of course, officer. Is there a problem?" Rico moved with Nico, eyes never leaving the girl. His body remained coiled, alert. "My partner seems concerned," Nico said, gesturing to Rico. "Just doing a routine check." The woman's laugh was light, casual. "Well, that's reassuring." She shifted her bag. "We're just catching the 4:15 to Albany, running a bit late, actually." Nico's eyes moved to the girl. She stood with her head down, hands gripped together, silent. "And you are?" Nico asked the woman. "Melissa Porter. This is my niece, Cora." The woman's hand rested on Cora's shoulder, looking protective. "We're visiting family upstate. You know how it is. Teenage girls and their mothers. Sometimes they need a break." Nico nodded slowly, but his training was clicking through observations. The woman's story came out too smoothly, no hesitation, rehearsed. And the girl had tensed when the woman touched her shoulder, not relaxed, tensed. "Miss," Nico addressed Cora directly, "is that right, heading upstate for the weekend?" Cora's eyes flicked up briefly, then away. She swallowed hard. Her lips parted as if to speak, but nothing came out. "She's shy around uniforms," Melissa offered quickly. "Aren't you, sweetie?" Another squeeze to Cora's shoulder, gentle, possessive. Cora nodded, just once, barely perceptible. But Nico saw her jaw clench tighter, saw her hands trembling despite being pressed together, saw the way her breathing had gone shallow and quick. These weren't signs of shyness. This was fear. Rico shifted position, moving subtly between them, a living barrier, and Cora's eyes filled with desperate, fragile hope. "Ma'am, can I see some identification?" "Of course." Melissa produced her wallet, pulled out a driver's license. "Is there something specific you're concerned about? Because we really are running late." Nico examined the ID. Melissa Porter, Connecticut address, looked legitimate, but something nagged him. He glanced at Cora. "And you, miss, do you have ID?" Cora's eyes widened, started to shake her head. "She forgot her wallet at home. Typical teenager. I keep telling her." "I'd like to hear from her," Nico cut in gently. He looked directly at Cora. "Miss, are you traveling willingly?" The question hung in the air like a loaded weapon. Cora's face drained of color. Her mouth opened, closed. Her eyes darted to Melissa, then back to Nico. Terror flickered across her features so fast most people would have missed it. But Rico didn't miss it. He let out a low whine, pressing closer to Cora, his body language screaming protection. "Of course she is," Melissa said, her smile tightening, almost imperceptibly. "Officer, I don't understand what this is about. We're just two people trying to catch a train." Nico's instincts flared. The woman's accent had shifted, just slightly, on the word train. Earlier she'd sounded northeastern. Now there was a different lilt, southern maybe, subtle, but there. People didn't shift accents mid-conversation unless they were code-switching or lying. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you both to step aside with me," Nico said, his hand moving to his radio, "just for a few questions." Melissa's smile finally cracked. "We'll miss our train. Then we'll get you on the next one." Nico's tone left no room for argument. "This way, please." Rico positioned himself firmly between them, a living barrier, and Cora's eyes filled with desperate, fragile hope.
The digital departure board above platform 12 flickered. 4:07 p.m. 8 minutes until boarding. Nico felt the weight of those numbers like a countdown timer. 8 minutes to make a decision that could change everything or be nothing. His training said follow protocol, but his instincts screamed something was desperately wrong. Melissa glanced at her watch. "Officer, I appreciate your thoroughness, but we really need to get to our platform. The train won't wait." Behind them, passengers clustered, annoyed. A businessman huffed. "What's the holdup?" A mother with 2 kids craned her neck. "We're going to miss our train." The pressure mounted. If he was wrong, he'd be causing a scene over nothing, delaying travelers. His supervisor would ask questions, complaints would follow. But if he was right and did nothing, Rico solved it. The dog moved closer to Cora, shifting from alert to protective. He positioned himself between her and Melissa, creating a barrier. His tail was rigid, a low, continuous whine, insistent, urgent. Nico had seen Rico make this exact stance once before, in Kandahar, protecting a child. The dog had refused to move until they'd found her.
Rico was saying the same thing now. Protect. Don't let her go. Melissa's hand tightened on Cora's arm. The girl flinched. Nico looked at Cora directly, catching her eyes. What he saw stopped his breath. Pure terror wrapped in desperate hope. Her eyes locked with his in intensity that transcended words. Please see me. Please don't look away. 4:08 p.m., 7 minutes. Ma'am, Nico said, making his choice, I need you both to step aside for a routine security check. Melissa's face transformed for a fraction of a second. The warm smile vanished, replaced by something cold. Fury flickered. Then, just as quickly, she recomposed. The smile returned, but it didn't reach her eyes. A security check? For what exactly? Standard procedure, Nico said, hand moving to his radio. This way, please. This is ridiculous. We've done nothing wrong. She looked at the crowd, appealing for support. This is harassment. But Nico didn't budge. He'd made his choice. Ma'am, you can cooperate now, or I can have the transit police escort you. The businessman behind them muttered something about incompetent security. The mother sighed loudly, but Nico didn't care about them. He cared about the 17-year-old girl who was trembling so hard now he could see it through her hoodie. Melissa's jaw tightened. Her fingers dug into Cora's arm. Fine, she said, the word dripping with barely restrained anger. But we're filing a complaint. That's your right, Nico replied calmly. He gestured toward a security office to his left. This way. Rico moved first, positioning himself at Cora's side, like a guardian. The girl's eyes filled with tears she was desperately trying not to shed. The departure board clicked. 4:09 p.m., 6 minutes. But for the first time since she'd walked into this station, she felt something besides terror. Hope.
The security office was small, windowless, lit by harsh fluorescent lights. Nico guided them inside, Rico staying close to Cora. Another officer, Martinez, joined them, positioning herself near the door. "This is absurd," Melissa said, voice rising. "We've answered your questions. What more do you want?" "Just a few more questions," Nico said. He turned to Cora. "Miss, I'd like to speak with you separately." "Absolutely not," Melissa cut in. "She's a minor. I'm her guardian." "Ma'am, this is standard procedure." Nico nodded to Martinez, who stepped between them. "Officer Martinez will stay with you." Cora's eyes widened. Rico pressed against her leg, steady. Melissa's face flushed, but she said nothing more. Nico led Cora to the corner, Rico following. He crouched to meet her eyes, voice gentle. "Cora, I need you to answer one question. What's your little brother's name?" The question hung in the air. Melissa stiffened. "Tommy," Melissa called confidently. "His name is Tommy." But Nico watched Cora, and what he saw broke his heart. Her face crumbled, not confusion, devastation. Tears spilled down her cheeks, her mouth opened but no sound came. She looked at Melissa with betrayal, final confirmation everything had been a lie. "Cora," Nico said softly, "what's your brother's name?" Her voice came out as a whisper, cracking. "Marcus. His name is Marcus." Silence. Even the lights seemed to buzz louder. Nico's hand moved to his radio. "Officer Martinez, call for backup, now." Melissa's mask shattered. Her eyes went wild. "You have no right." "Ma'am, stay where you are." But Melissa bolted. She lunged for the door, trying to shove past Martinez. Rico moved faster. He positioned himself in the doorway, blocking her path. Not snarling, just immovable. "Get that dog out of my way," Melissa screamed, all pretense gone. Martinez grabbed her arm. "You're not going anywhere." And then Cora broke. Everything poured out in a flood.
"She's not my aunt. I don't know her real name. She said she was taking me to a modeling studio. She took my phone. She said if I told anyone, if I tried to run, she'd hurt Marcus. She'd hurt my mom. I've been trying to escape. I saw Rico and I remembered." She couldn't finish, collapsing against the wall, her whole body shaking. Nico's jaw clenched so tight it hurt. He keyed his radio. "This is Officer Johnston at Central Station Security. I need immediate backup and a supervisor. Possible human trafficking situation. Suspect in custody. Victim is a minor." Melissa stopped struggling. Her face went blank, emotionless. The game was over, and she knew it. Footsteps pounded in the hallway, backup arriving. But Nico didn't move. He stayed focused on Cora, on the 17-year-old girl who'd been brave enough to ask for help in the only way she could. "You're safe now," he said quietly. "She can't hurt you. She can't hurt your family. You're safe." Cora looked up at him, tears streaming, and for the first time in 2 days, she believed it.
Within minutes, the security office transformed into a command center. A transit police supervisor arrived, followed by special victims detectives. Melissa sat handcuffed in the corner, face blank, refusing to speak. But she didn't need to. The evidence spoke for her. Martinez emptied Melissa's bag onto the table. 3 driver's licenses, different names, same face. Credit cards that didn't match, a burner phone with encrypted messaging, and a small bottle labeled vitamins that wasn't vitamins. Sedatives, a detective said, to keep victims compliant during transport. Nico glanced at Cora, who sat wrapped in a blanket, Rico pressed against her legs. The detective scrolled through the phone, face darkening. "We need the FBI here, now. This isn't just one person, it's a network." FBI agents arrived with cyber forensics. They cracked the encryption in 20 minutes. What they found silenced the room. Message threads spanning 18 months, at least 15 different usernames, all variations of scout or agent. The operation targeted artistic teenagers, photographers, models, singers, dancers, kids with online portfolios, kids hungry for opportunities. "They're hunting for vulnerability," Agent Chen explained, voice tight. "They identified targets through social media, build relationships over months, then offer fake opportunities. All lies." Security footage from Central Station and 7 other transit hubs painted a devastating picture. Melissa appeared again and again over 18 months, always with a different girl, always looking professional. The girls always looked uncomfortable but controlled, trying to blend in. 37 trips, Agent Chen said. "We're identifying victims now. Many families don't even know their daughters are gone yet." Within 2 hours, alerts went out nationwide. 6 girls currently listed as missing were matched. 3 were located that evening, 1 at a bus station, 2 at a trafficking hub. The raids would eventually expose an operation spanning 12 states. Cora gave her statement with a steadiness that broke Nico's heart. She recounted every detail: Scout Marcus's messages, the fake portfolio, the promised modeling contract, Melissa's threats against her family. Her voice shook but never stopped. She wanted every word recorded, every detail documented. "I thought I was smart enough to avoid this," she said quietly. "Everyone warns you about internet predators, but he didn't seem like one. He seemed professional, real." She looked up at Agent Chen. How many girls fell for the same lie? "Too many," Agent Chen said. "But you just helped us catch them. Your bravery is going to save lives." Melissa was transported to federal custody that evening, still silent, still refusing to cooperate. But it didn't matter. The phone held enough evidence to dismantle the network. Within 72 hours, 8 people would be arrested across 4 states. Nico watched them take her away,
this woman who'd perfected the art of looking harmless while destroying lives. Rico sat beside him, tail still, mission complete. "Good boy," Nico murmured. "You saw what I couldn't. You heard what she wouldn't say." Rico's ears flicked toward Cora, who was finally calling her mother to say she was coming home.
The waiting room door burst open and Cora's mother rushed through. She saw her daughter and collapsed to her knees, pulling Cora into her arms. Sobs racked both their bodies, wordless and raw. Behind her, a 10-year-old boy stood frozen. Marcus. His face crumbled. "Cora?" She opened her arms. "Marcus, I'm here. I'm safe." He crashed into her, fists gripping her hoodie. "I knew you'd come home. I knew you would." Cora's mother looked up at Nico through tears, unable to speak. Thank you felt too small. She grabbed his hand and held it. "You brought her back to us." Nico knelt beside them. She saved herself. She was brave enough to ask for help. He looked at Rico. He just knew how to listen. The days that followed brought justice and healing. 6 more girls rescued, the network dismantled, 8 arrests, 17 victims brought home, federal charges ensuring decades behind bars. Cora began rebuilding. Therapy, support groups. Gradually, nightmares became less frequent. She returned to school, to photography, to her life. And she made a decision. She would share her story. 3 weeks after her rescue, Cora stood in her school auditorium, the same place where she'd first learned about canine distress signals. Her hands trembled, but her voice didn't shake. "I thought I was too smart to be fooled. I thought asking for help meant I was weak. I was wrong about both. If you're scared, if something feels wrong, there are people trained to see what you can't say. Sometimes they have 4 legs and a heart bigger than fear." Before the assembly, she'd visited Central Station, found Nico and Rico on patrol. She'd brought a photograph she'd taken the day of her rescue. Nico and Rico at Platform 7, silhouettes against afternoon light, professionally framed with a brass plate, "The ones who listen." "I wanted you to have this, so you remember that what you did mattered." Nico accepted it with quiet gratitude, but Rico's reaction made her smile. The dog stepped forward, pressing his head against her hand, tail wagging. Recognition, connection. The Transit Authority later honored Rico with a commendation. There was a ceremony, a medal, officials, but the real reward came in quieter moments, when Cora visited and Rico's tail wagged harder, when other victims were saved because officers knew what to look for, when the photograph hung on the station wall as a reminder that listening saves lives. Cora's final words echoed through the auditorium. "Don't suffer in silence. Someone is always listening. You just have to be brave enough to ask." In the back of the room, her mother held Marcus's hand and cried tears of gratitude that her daughter had found that courage when it mattered most. Thank you for staying with us till the end of this story. I'm sure you enjoyed it. Please like and subscribe to get more interesting videos like this.